You're on the John Fredericks Radio Network, and we're trucking the truth across America. Joining us now, the Mothra of talk radio, Victoria Cobb. She's also the president of the Richmond chapter, I guess the Virginia chapter based in Richmond of the Family Foundation. Victoria, great to have you with us.
Thanks for having me. Interesting interview you did the other day.
I know. Now, Victoria, I know you don't gamble, but if you want to come to our suite August 10th at Colonial Downs, the horses don't bite. You'll have fun. You can meet my wife. Come on, man. You gotta spread your wings a little bit, Mothra.
Does not bother me. I'm not a big fan of these slot machines that just went up all over town. Those are what's going to harm families, not the racing.
Well, they're not slot machines. They're called historical horse racing machines.
Because we changed the name, and instead of lemons and oranges and whatever you see in Vegas, we have these fake, horse races that have already been run. But same thing. I mean, come on.
No, they're not. They're not the same thing. They're historical horse racing. So you put money in, you get money back. Hey, it's no different than your lottery, right? Better, you got a higher chance to win there than your lottery.
Blowing paychecks on lottery either.
Well, people do have free choice, Victoria. Right?
They do. They do. I mean,
you're
a
conservative, right? You want to give people
into addiction,
and then
us having to deal with all the breakdown. It's fine. It's okay. We're past that. We've got the slots now. We will deal with it.
Don't be mean to the horses, Victoria. Don't be mean to the horses. All those jobs.
We should talk about Mr. Former Governor McAuliffe and his ignorance of a bill that I know he knows about.
Okay, let's talk about my interview yesterday with former Governor Terry McGenius McAuliffe. I think he is going to run for president. So what did you think? You took exception to the interview. Why?
Yeah, so, he was asked, I appreciate you asking him the question about Delegate Tran's bill. Now, you have to put this all in context, which is what you just said. He's about to run for president. This has been, 2 months? We're at least a full month. Yeah, we're basically 2 months after this bill got all its notoriety. He knows exactly what's in this bill. But here's the dilemma. He's going to run for president, and he's going to want Planned Parenthood. And he, when he ran for governor, he had about $2 million of their money in his coffers for his campaign. He needs more, and he has to stay on their good side. And so what does he do? He basically completely and utterly mischaracterizes the bill so that he can double down on it, so that he can say, no, I support it because it doesn't actually do what it actually does. So if folks heard it on, was it yesterday? I guess it was yesterday. If folks heard him, he tried to say that all it does is change it from 3 doctors allowing a late trimester abortion to 1 doctor. That is one tiny piece of a massive bill, but it's a significant tiny piece. So he talked about how few of these have been done. Well, that's because it's required 3 doctors to determine whether there's irreparable harm being done to a woman, or there's, there's very rare circumstances where we've ever allowed this. And the bill undid all of that and a whole lot more. And he knows that. He absolutely. And if he doesn't, he's not prepared. He can't go on that campaign trail because you better guarantee you're not the only one going to ask him.
So let me ask you this, Victoria Cobb. So Terry McAuliffe, when he went on CNN about a month ago, they asked him about the Kathy Tran bill, the third term, the whole thing, being able to, what the governor said, being able to, I don't know what the word to use, terminate, extinguish, execute the baby, kill the baby after it's in the birth canal or out. And he said that he would have vetoed it before it hit his desk, like immediately. And he criticized the governor and said that bill he would have vetoed it, right? That's what he said on CNN a month ago.
Yep.
One month ago. So I asked him what I really thought was, okay, here's a softball question. I'll just toss it up there, like put it on the tee, and you can hit it out. And he did a 180. He flip-flopped on it from what he said on CNN and said that, and I had to press him on, would you veto it? I asked him that 3 times. I said, finally, answer the question, would you veto it or not? And he said, no, I would sign it. And then he spun it like you said. Why the change?
Oh, I can tell you exactly why the change. Because the whole abortion industry owns the Democrat Party for the most part, and particularly a candidate like McAuliffe, and they have regrouped. Their goal, I mean, they cannot walk away from these bills. These bills give them all the profit and all the volume that they've been looking for. They are pushing them continuously in all the states around the country. So they can't walk away. So the best they can do, because there was such public outrage, is mischaracterize it, downplay it. But they don't want they absolutely don't want their presidential candidates saying that these are bad bills. So they are not going to. So there's been a regrouping. This is the beginning of it. You'll see other folks do the same thing, I guarantee you. Now, I would hope folks at this point, now he's not quite on the trail yet, but I hope folks would say, are you really going to pretend you haven't read the bill? Because the bill also strikes out informed consent. It strikes out 24-hour waiting period. It strikes out, safety standards in the facilities. I mean, every single law we have on abortion was wiped out in this bill. And I hope that, reporters, journalists, all of y'all on the radio will continue to ask these guys, really, you've heard about this for how many months, and you're really going to pretend you don't know what's in the bill? Because that's what happened right after. Remember, there's a video made of all these people, every time something, disturbing happens in the news, everybody has to pretend they didn't know about it in order to try to not have to answer it. You can do that for a day. You can't do that for months, and you definitely can't do that on a presidential campaign trail.
So, Victoria, are you saying that Governor McAuliffe, in his interview with me yesterday on my radio show, are you saying that the reason he flipped on whether or not he would veto the Kathy Tran third trimester abortion bill is because he wouldn't get funding from Planned Parenthood? Is that what you're saying?
Yes. That is exactly what I'm saying. They are not, you just can't overlook the power they have with the purse. They have a PAC. They have always been funding these candidates. He is a recipient already of a ton of their money, and he is about to go out again. It is absolutely the case that these guys do not want to walk away from Planned Parenthood. And it's kind of amazing. I mean, our current governor, it's even more shocking. Think about Governor Northam. Planned Parenthood was part of, that abortion industry, like everybody else, when the blackface stuff came out, they called for his resignation. But he's still doing their bidding in the budget. I mean, it's amazing to me that these guys absolutely, they're wed to them because they're part of what helps their base. It's part of where the money comes from. It's really disappointing.
So what you just said is interesting. I'm with Victoria Cobb. She is the president of the Virginia chapter of Family Foundation. So, Victoria, you're saying that the Planned Parenthood organization, that they're making immense profits from the termination of births, aborting babies. So why this late trimester push? Does that make them more money? Is this simply a monetary
a first trimester abortion might be, we'll say, $400. I mean, it varies. But a late trimester abortion, you've moved into the thousands. So think about the distinction there. It is absolutely, for them, more profitable the further along an abortion is. I encourage folks, honestly, if you want a good hard look at the industry, incredible movie that came out this weekend, Unplanned. It is about an abortion clinic worker who walked away from the industry, and you just kind of see a lot of the reality. And in one of those interviews, they're talking with the clinic director is talking with the client about, you better book your abortion today because next week it'll go up another $200 if you get further along. And so, yeah, they know the prices are based on how far along they are.
So what you're saying is it's not about women's rights to choose; it's about money.
Oh, no question. I mean, Planned Parenthood, came out a while ago with their, that they had increased their goals for abortion volume at every clinic, and it had come out that you no longer could be a clinic that didn't do abortion. So they used to, back in the day, have some clinics that did just more like birth control and some other things like that, and they don't allow those anymore. There is no clinic that doesn't do abortion anymore. And that was one of the debates, when safety standards came out, they kept, going everywhere saying, oh, you're going to, put out all these wonderful, put all these wonderful places that do all this birth control and all this other stuff. You're going to put them out of business. Well, guess what? They could have continued to do that. They could not do abortion. They could absolutely do all of their health care without any safety standards. But if they were going to do the surgeries, they needed safety standards, and that was one of the big debates. But they absolutely weren't going to abandon their profit maker.
Well, that is a stunning analogy that you just made, or an explanation that really this is not driven by the right to choose or giving the woman the choice, but you're saying that Planned Parenthood is driven by margin and profit, and the deeper into the term you get, the more money it is and the higher the margin it is. So
no question. And in fact, in the movie, another interesting analogy that they did in the movie this weekend, where if you went to see it, they talked about you have the head of, I guess, all the Houston-based or the Texas-based clinics talking to one of the clinic directors, and she says, look, in a hamburger joint, hamburgers, you don't make money off of hamburgers. It's the fries and the soda. And she says to the clinic director, abortion is our fries and soda.
It's incredible. Now, have you had the opportunity, Victoria, to see that movie?
I have. I actually got to pre-screen it about a month ago, and then we reserved a couple theaters for folks here in Richmond on Friday night for opening night. It's powerful. I tell folks it's very impactful. It's not a, go hang out with your friends, munch a bunch of popcorn and have a light night. It's very different than many movies you would go to see, but it is very impactful. It is very well done. We really do encourage everyone to see it because it does expose some of the realities that folks that maybe aren't as familiar with abortion clinics and what they do and how women face these decisions. It does expose some of that for folks that might not be as familiar as somebody like myself that works on the issue.
So I understand that some social media companies have not allowed it to be promoted, and some TV cable networks are not taking the ads for it. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, it's incredibly disappointing that we don't simply allow all sides of issues to be discussed in culture. And I think Hollywood is often trying to drive a narrative, and that's just disappointing. And I think the American people are above that. I think they want to discuss all sides of issues. They want to see all sides of issues in movies. They have no problem. I mean, I remember, I don't know how many years ago it was, but Scandal, one of those big, network shows, I think it was, it had an abortion on their show, and they were fine doing it their way. But when Unplanned is all about the abortion industry, and it is a true story. It is someone's story. She wrote a book about it, and now it's a film. And it's just disappointing that we kind of have to have people who want to set the stage, and so we have networks deciding we won't advertise for it. Thankfully, despite that, it actually far exceeded the expectations of the box office. It will go from 1,100 theaters last weekend to 1,700 this weekend, so plenty of time for folks to still look for it and try to find it in your community to take a good look. It's a hard movie, but it's very, very good.
All right. Well, I'm not sure I'm going to do it on date night, but I do want to check it out.
Fair
right?
point.
Yeah, because it is an intense film, and I do want to see it because I'd like to be able to talk about it on my radio show. But Victoria, I tell you what, I've got a minute. Anything else you want to mention about that interview yesterday?
It's disappointing. It's just disappointing that, not unexpected because we saw that level of allegiance to Planned Parenthood while he was governor, but it is disappointing. I do want to take the last minute, encourage folks to come out tomorrow to the March for Life. It's going to be thousands of folks at the Capitol. If folks aren't there, they're probably the only ones not there. It is going to be massive, and we are really excited.
All right, if you're going to the March to Life rally tomorrow, remember there's also Veto Day. I'm going to be live in the Richmond General Assembly at Tim Hugo's office. I'm going to be live there doing our show. We'll have our usual gang, but parking is going to be an absolute nightmare. So if you're coming in Richmond, I would take some sort of a ride share. If you're coming from Charlottesville or Northern Virginia or Southeast Virginia, I would check out Amtrak. That's a good option. But parking will be really tough to do tomorrow, so you might want to look at other options. But we will be there tomorrow live, and I want to thank you for your time today, Victoria Cobb, the Mothra of Talk Radio. And you invited. You can bring your husband to our suite at Colonial Downs. That could be your date night on August 10th.
Thanks.
And you can be nice. Horses are nice. You'll have fun. You don't have to gamble. You can have fun. You can go there, have a soft drink or a hot cup of coffee, and have fun. John Fredericks Radio Network with the Mothra of Talk Radio.